Welcome to AK Anime Explainer. Today is explanation of Soul Land 3, Legend of the Dragon King Part 298. Without any delay, start explanation. Yuan and Yehue took 3 steps backward while Aruhang stayed firm on his location. However, Aruhang had a surprised look in his eyes. He knew from Tang Wulin that he was facing a girl. However, he still found it unbelievable for a girl to be able to block his attack head-on. Sima Jinkai was also surprised on the other side. His dragon-slaying saber seemed to have slashed upon a star. The star shattered instantly, however his dragon-slaying saber rebounded as well. They too were evenly matched. Under the enhancement of her battle armor, Yixinglan's aura increased dramatically. Her Star God sword was much tougher than before and her sword soul shone brightly. It seemed to have penetrated everywhere and rained down with a domineering aura. The sword and saber collided and exchanged blows. Yixinglan had surprisingly withstood Sima Jinch's attacks on her own for quite a while. The two ladies held their ground against the 2 titled duos while Tang Wulin was going up against Yu Jingyu. Yu Jingyu's Saint Sword had hit nothing before him. He was the one in the most pain. When he saw that Tang Wulin was upon him, his light of judgment struck Tang Wulin. Tang Wulin unleashed his golden dragon domineering body and absorbed the energy from the light of judgment. At the same time, he stabbed with his golden dragon spear with lightning speed. It was precisely the first spearing technique that old Tang taught him, 1,000 accusing fingers. Millions upon millions of spears' gleams condensed and scattered as they shot towards Yu Jingyu. Yu Jingyu's mastery of the sword could not be compared to Yixinglan's. He was skilled in an attribute of his own. Even though he had a continuous enhancement from the 12-winged angel behind him and the improvement he had with his 2-word battle armor, his Saint Sword instantly became flustered-faced with the 1,000 accusing fingers from Tang Wulin's golden dragon spear. Tang Wulin had strengthened his soul power with Devour the World and had the enhancement from his golden dragon king's power. He pressured Yu Jingyu with his attacks until Yu Jingyu staggered backward. He would be slamming into Yixinglan behind him in no time. Although Tang Wulin was attacking Yu Jingyu, he was not yet using his full strength. Xie's disappearance was also very unusual. He had not made any moves since then. He had always been very skilled at looking for an opportunity and could appear at any moment. Also, after Xu Xiaoyan activated her absolute star screen and star wheel shackles, she had not launched another attack for quite some time now. With her current 7-ringed cultivation base, this was abnormal. However, with the protection from Yu Jingyu's wings and the addition of the wild energy in the air, Tang Wulin was unaware of what Xu Xiaoyan was doing. He was still keeping guard against her. Currently, it could be said that Tang Wulin and his team had gained an absolute advantage over the battlefield. Although on the surface it was a 3 against 6, only 4 out of the Shrek 6 monsters possessed powerful combat power. The remaining 2 members consisted of a Control System Battle Soul Master and a Food-type Tool Soul Master. They could not be directly involved in the battle. So as long as Aruhang or Sima Jinkai could succeed, this battle would basically be over. However, with Tang Wulin understood his companions. Although their current situation was related to the little trick he played, they would not be defeated this easily. They had improved a lot over these years and there was no way that they would lag behind in battle strategy. It was apparent from their coordination in the first round that they were very much in sync with each other. That was also why he waited for Xie Xie and Xu Xiaoyan to make their moves as he suppressed Yu Jingyu. Once they made their moves and he successfully blocked their attacks, this match would be over. Yu Jingyu only managed to block Tang Wulin's 1,000 accusing fingers after using everything he had. The glow of the Saint Sword in his hands wavered. Amidst the sharp glow of the golden dragon spear, he felt as if his Saint Sword would be shattered at any time. He's really strong. If he had come this aggressively at me while we fought one-on-one back then, I don't think I could even finish unleashing my holy fusion skill. However, the victory will surely be ours. He he he. A burst of strange laughter suddenly resounded beside Tang Wulin's ear. Tang Wulin swung his right arm without hesitation. He wielded his golden dragon spear within his left hand and once again unleashed the 1,000 accusing fingers which enveloped Yu Jingyu. Even if Xu Xiaoyan unleashed her controlling skill at this moment, he would not leave too many openings for Yu Jingyu to exploit. At the same time, Tang Wulin extended the sharp claws on his outstretched right hand. It was the impressive Golden Dragon Dreadclaw. Maybe this move should have been called Golden Dragon Nirvana Divine Claw. It was exactly who he had been waiting for. That strange laugh had come from Xie Xie. In that small instant, he had clearly judged Xie Xie's position with his spiritual power. However, the instant Tang Wulin hurled his claws, he instantly felt the air around him greatly distort. The brightness of his surroundings faded and the gymnasium disappeared. He suddenly found himself among stars and constellations. This was... Tang Wulin's pupils suddenly contracted. His golden dragon Nirvana Divine Claw missed its target. In this boundless vacuum, regardless of how terrifying his golden dragon Nirvana Divine Claw's attacking power was, there was no way he could unleash its full strength. What is this? What's happening? After a brief moment of shock, Tang Wulin immediately felt the pressure increase on him. Domain. He had found himself an answer in the next moment. This was because he had personally experienced the light dark Dolor Long Yu's domain not long ago. The space which he had fallen into was similar to a domain. He finally understood why Xu Xiaoyan did not continue to control the battlefield after unleashing 2 soul skills. She was saving her energy for this. This domain of hers might very well have been her martial soul avatar. She must have had to accumulate her strength in order to accomplish this. What the others did was buy her time. In this instant, Tang Wulin fully understood it. He felt great joy in his heart at the same time. Although he was in deep waters right now, the effects of such a powerful control system ability in actual combat was unimaginable. What he was facing right now was what their common enemies would be facing in the future. How could he not leap in joy for this? However, a heavy and solid force suddenly appeared from the side and rammed into Tang Wulin at the instant. Yuan and Yehui seemed to have emerged from among the stars. She threw a volley of cloud vortex divine punches at Tang Wulin. Not good. Sima Jinkai and Aruhang must have been confused after falling into this domain. These guys will tackle me first. Tang Wulin had understood his companion's strategy. He could not help but bitterly smile in his heart. After all, they were very good to him. They would never forget to first get rid of him in a situation like this. Although he felt slightly helpless, Tang Wulin still displayed his own powerful determination. He drew a deep breath and stabbed forward with his golden dragon spear. His spear sparkled with dazzling spear's gleam as he stubbornly blocked Yuan's cloud vortex divine punch. However, a surge of billowy swords consciousness suddenly fell down from the skies. It was precisely a star that came crashing down this time. Isn't this Yi Xinglan's star god sword? Tang Wulin's left hand shook. He brandished the Atlas divine spear which burst forth with spear's consciousness. He blocked Yi Xinglan's attack with his own powerful strength. However, Yi Xinglan's sword soul had already been completed. Her attack did not merely affect his body, it affected his spirit as well. Yi Xinglan and Yuan and Yehui worked together. They suppressed Tang Wulin so much that he seemed to have been overwhelmed. If this were a fair fight, Tang Wulin would not have felt any difficulty in simultaneously dealing with both of them. However, his companions currently had their two-word battle armors on while his battle armor had melted back into metal and was yet to be remade. It was only natural for him to be at a huge disadvantage. Ha ha! Big brother, let's see how you deal with this now. Yu Zhengyu descended from the skies. A brilliant light of judgment instantly fell and mercilessly blasted Tang Wulin's body. Although Tang Wulin could resolve the light of judgment, he still disliked the light of judgment in his heart. The reason was simple: attacks that moved at the speed of light were impossible to dodge. He could only stubbornly bear the attack. Every time he withstood the attack, his strength would be whittled away by varying degrees. He had no choice but to once again unleash his golden dragon domineering body. Fortunately, he had the energy absorbed by Devour Heaven and Earth. He was simultaneously fighting against three people. Tang Wulin was steadily losing his ground, but he finally managed to hold them back. Throughout this brief process of exchanging blows, he had made some judgments in his heart. The first thing he could be sure of was that Xu Xiaoyan should not be able to unleash another controlling skill after she unleashed this domain soul skill of hers. At least, he had found a lease of life. Secondly, Ruhang and Sima Jinkai should have been confused by now. He had no idea where they were. This was his greatest problem. He had no assistance while his companions were wearing their battle armors. He would not even stand a chance. Tang Wulin felt helpless. However, what good would feeling helpless do? He must break out of this domain. Tang Wulin believed that even under her martial soul avatar, Xu Xiaoyan should not be able to maintain this domain of hers for a long time. Even if she had the support from Xu Lishi's buns, the results would have been the same. This was a domain, after all. On top of that, she had to confuse two title Duluos. At the end of the day, Xu Xiaoyan only had 7 rings at the moment. Even so, Tang Wulin was still happy for Xu Xiaoyan. She was able to possess such a soul skill with her current cultivation base. If she became a title Doluo in the future, he could not imagine just how powerful her domain would be. A faint smile appeared on Tang Wulin's face. Although it was difficult for him to block the attacks, he was still in a very good mood. It was precisely because he was having a hard time defending himself from the attacks that his potential was fully stimulated. The dragon core within his body was beating intensely. His heart was pumping with the same frequency as well. There was no way Tang Wulin could compete with the trio before him in terms of soul power. However, in terms of strength, the combination of the three of them could not be compared to his. Currently, his monstrous strength had played a huge role. With the addition of his understanding of his spear soul, he had somehow managed to parry all the powerful attacks aimed at him. He still had some tricks up his sleeve. He had not unleashed his 2 great spirit souls. The Overlord Dragon and Gold Song could help him withstand the attacks for a while. What he had to do now was to buy some time. Once the domain ended, Xu Xiaoyan's combat strength would surely weaken greatly. When that time came, they would obtain victory in this match. However, it was also precisely at this moment that he felt an ominous aura suddenly appear behind him. Xie's voice sounded again. Big brother, I'll show you just how powerful my new skill, Space-Time Dragon, is. Sharp and illusory energy once again tore open Tang Wulin's protective dragon air. Tang Wulin noticed with shock that Xie's attack was starkly different than before. Even his dragon air was affected by the spatial shockwave. However, he had not shown any sign of space element on his body. What was this ability? Even though his cultivation base had been improving with blinding speed these days, he was still feeling slightly overwhelmed when fighting off against 4 opponents. It must be known that these 4 were also members of Shrek 7 monsters and they were of the same ranks. It did not matter how stubbornly Tang Wulin held his ground, he could not help but be flustered while simultaneously fighting against 4 of them. Boom! His protective dragon air shook. He triggered the Golden Dragon Blast with his dragon air in an attempt to shake off Xie's attack. The sharpness behind him paused momentarily, but that pause was all it could do. The attack kept infiltrating Tang Wulin's defenses. The Shrek 7 monsters had been in sync since the beginning. The words Xie uttered while he sneaked up behind Tang Wulin were not meant to alert him, but for his other companions. At the same time when he launched his attack, Yi Xinglan, Yu Jingyu, and Yuan and Yehui before him had unleashed bursts of strength at almost the same time. Yi Xinglan's body shone brightly with starlight. The light spots on her Star Wisdom battle armor connected with each other. Her entire person resembled a primordial divine sword that had just been awakened. Her body and sword became one as she came at Tang Wulin. Her seventh soul skill, Martial Soul Avatar. Star God Sword Body. Yuan and Yehui's body enlarged tremendously as her entire person turned into a beast. She consecutively threw her punches. Clusters of huge vortexes exploded in front of her and they covered Tang Wulin's body. She had also unleashed her seventh soul skill. Martial Soul Avatar, Titan Giant Ape. The 12-winged angel behind Yu Jingyu instantly increased in clarity. His seventh soul ring shone. The 4 pairs of feathered wings on his back extended. He appeared as if he was coated in gold. Seventh soul skill, Martial Soul Avatar, Holy Angel. 3 Great Assault System Battle Soul Masters had unleashed their Martial Soul Avatars at the same time. They launched their attacks head-on with a single purpose, and that was to leave Tang Wulin no time to deal with Xie behind him. Without a doubt, Xie was the one who would deal the final blow in this combo attack. Xu Xiaoyan controlled the battlefield with her powerful domain ability. This temporarily robbed Ruheng and Sima Jinkai of the ability to help Tang Wulin. They had combined almost all the strength of the Shrek 6 monsters as they dealt with Tang Wulin first. Although Tang Wulin seemed to be the one with the weakest cultivation base among the 3 of them, the Shrek 6 monsters were his companions. It was precisely because they were his companions that they knew exactly how powerful Tang Wulin's potential was. He was a person very skilled in creating miracles. He seemed to be able to accomplish the impossible. That was why the strategy the 6 monsters had devised was to deal with Tang Wulin first before they would focus their strength on dealing with the other 2. It seemed that their plan was going to work. Tang Wulin's expression was one of grief and indignation. Do you guys have to? You're all wearing 2-word battle armors, and the 4 of you are ganging up on me. This is too unfair. Even though he was highly skilled, he was currently in a pinch and could not unleash his talents. The last time he was under such a huge amount of pressure was when he was fighting against the Bear Lord. However, just as his companions predicted, the greater the pressure, the more powerful the potential brought out by Tang Wulin. This time, he did not unleash his gold-silver impaling array. When faced with his companions who had the enhancements from their 2-word battle armors and had unleashed their martial soul avatars, Tang Wulin had unleashed his most powerful combat ability without hesitation. A deafening dragon's roar erupted from his body. His 7th soul ring shone as well. Martial Soul Avatar, Blue Emperor. Countless vines gushed forth from his body. Every single vine resembled a huge dragon as they shot outward. They charged toward his 4 companions at the same time. Tang Wulin could clearly feel the blue-silver Emperor vines which were charging toward Xie behind him being continuously shattered and broken. However, he also understood that it was inevitable. His emotions were very calm and stable. His entire person was in a steady state that was difficult to describe. He judged the strength of the current attacks of his companions through the combined attacks of his blue-silver Emperor vines and Golden Dragon King bloodline. The most terrifying thing about a martial soul avatar was that it could amplify the strength of all soul skills at the same time. Hence, the 6 monsters who had unleashed their martial soul avatars were not yet at their strongest. They would be at their strongest when they unleashed other soul skills through their martial soul avatars. For instance, Yu Jingyu's Holy Fusion skill had broken Tang Wulin's Blood Soul Fusion skill, Blue Emperor Dragon Soars to the Heaven, before this. Hence, at the same time when he activated his Blue Emperor avatar, Tang Wulin's body shone brightly with golden light. He aimed his golden dragon spear forward as a surge of domineering aura which could overpower the entire world burst forth from his body. King's Path. A golden light shot forth and spread before him. Yuan and Yehue stood right in the path of the golden light. The clusters of vortices created by the cloud vortex divine punches were obliterated before the king's path's golden light. The golden light charged straight towards her enormous body with blinding speed. At the rank of a soul saint, every soul master had powerful strength and senses. Yuan and Yehue was a twin martial soul and was no exception. She clearly felt the immense threat the golden light posed toward her. At the same time, when she felt shocked, she quickly moved and sidestepped it. Besides dodging, she instantly decided on an optimal way to deal with this and attacked from the side. Xie's attack reached Tang Wulin from behind in the end. However, in that instant, he only felt that he had hit a golden shadow. Yi Xinglan's Star God Sword also cut onto the golden radiance. It was as if she had thrust it into a smelter, the instantaneous spiritual making the sword soul recoil in fear. There was no exception for Yu Zhengyu's attack, as it was similarly repelled. On the other hand, using his king's path, it had only taken a split second for Tang Wulin to have moved over 100 meters away. The king's path allowed him to advance with irresistible force. This was the perfect combination of spirit, energy, and essence. It was the combination of every ability he had. Not only did it produce terrifying offensive power, but it was also the best skill to swiftly get out of the encirclement. Tang Wulin did not stop. As he dashed out using the king's path, his body suddenly transformed, becoming as horrifying as a black hole. At that point, he had already elevated his spirit domain spiritual cultivation to its peak. The large damask tulip appeared behind his back once again as his devours the world absorbed everything in his surroundings. He relied on the perception gained from his spiritual power and the effect of devours the world to channel even a portion of origin energy from Xu Xiaoyon's domain for his own use. Soon after, he threw the Atlas Divine Spear in his left hand. He was not aiming for his companions but tossed it into the void. It was the final stake. It was the other divine skill that Tang Wulin managed to learn besides the king's path. At the same moment the Atlas Divine Spear shot out, its spear shaft suddenly burst out with an incredibly piercing white radiance. The incandescent light was filled with Atlas' stalwart jade pillar-like aura, just like when the Atlas Dolor Yunming blocked the final Godkiller rank fixed soul ammunition during the attack on Shrek. One after another, ancient silver runes appeared on the spear shaft. The runes shimmered as an unfathomable amount of energy burst out. As he valiantly thrust the Atlas spear forth, the other 6 monsters felt as if they could see the faint silhouette of the man that protected them once before. Boom boom boom. The domain shook violently before it was destroyed by Tang Wulin's spear. Everything in the surrounding area shattered in an instant. The domain shook profusely. As the crack split open, the scenery around them returned once again. It was still the old gymnasium, but due to the domain's effect, Gale Saber Demon Sima Jinkai and Strength God A Ruheng had dashed their way to the two far sides of the gym. Not only that, a stream of starlight shimmered on top of each of their heads, illuminating their figures. The light had not only corroded their bodies but also slowed down their movements such that they appeared as if they were in slow motion. On the other hand, Tang Wulin himself remained within the siege of the 6 other monsters. Xu Xiaoyan gave out a muffled grunt as she slumped onto the ground. Her charming face was ghastly pale while her 7th soul ring glowed dimly. It was apparent that her broken domain affected her physical state. Following Xu Xiaoyan's fall, the starlight on Ruheng and Sima Jinqi's heads weakened and vanished soon after. Both of them immediately dashed toward Tang Wulin's side at lightning speed. It was truly embarrassing given that they were both title de law rank powerhouses. Sima Jinkai even addressed Tang Wulin as Your Majesty. It was simply unbelievable that they could be swarmed and overwhelmed by a Soul Sage-ranked control-type Soul Master when they were not clad in battle armor. Tang Wulin managed to break the domain with his spear, so he was greatly relieved as well. Aruheng and Sima Jinkai were less than 100 meters away from him, so it would only take a moment for them to arrive by his side. He would only need to withstand another round of attacks for now. The domineering golden dragon body instantly illuminated. Every one of his scales turned as smooth as a mirror. Meanwhile, the golden dragon spear vibrated as he launched the 1,000 accusing fingers with the power of the blood-soul fusion skill. With the domain broken, Yu Zhengyu and the other 2 had remained in their martial soul avatar state, but their attacks had obviously slowed down a little. Xie's body transformed into a shadow-like form. He looked just like a giant dragon phantom as he leaped straight for Tang Wulin's head. Roar! The golden dragon roar burst out with a touch of dragon might. Even though Xie's ability did trouble Tang Wulin, he had verified the suppression effect that his Golden Dragon King bloodline had on all dragon-type martial souls long ago. Tang Wulin's Golden Dragon roar sent out a wave of pressure so strong that it made Xie grunt loud enough that he revealed himself. The oppressive effect of dragon might was truly too powerful. Tang Wulin could clearly see a layer of illusionary scales covering Xie's original Dragon Knight battle armor. He could not tell the color of the scales as it seemed to be shifting in the light. The scales were semicircular in shape and appeared extremely peculiar. Xie had revealed himself after being stunned by dragon might, but when Tang Wulin's 1,000 accusing fingers struck him, it penetrated his body and did not cause much harm, as if the attack had just passed through a void. Tang Wulin did not hold back on his attacks anymore as his companions were all clad in battle armor and had a very powerful defense. He unleashed his most powerful spear technique, the 1,000 accusing fingers, at full force, which was completely beyond the realm of a spear soul. Moreover, it was a blood-soul fusion skill. He thrust the spear forth and blocked all his companions' attacks. Tang Wulin was secretly relieved. The domineering golden dragon body was wasted as the mirror effect that lasted for 1 second vanished. However, he had managed to block the attacks in the end. Aruhang and Sima Jinkai were already a stone's throw away and the two of them converged. Xu Xiaoyon's domain was broken, so her ability to exercise control would certainly reduce greatly. The victory was about to be in their hands. Just as Tang Wulin, Aruhang and Sima Jinkai were thinking that the competition was about to end, a situation that none of them had expected suddenly occurred. In an instant, a palm appeared and placed itself onto Tang Wulin's back. The palm looked quite plump, like a large meat bun with a few pits in its flesh. Whatever the case, as it slapped onto Tang Wulin's back, his entire body stiffened immediately. His 1,000 accusing fingers, that had yet to be fully unleashed, was completely disintegrated. His eyes were filled with fear and disbelief. He would never have believed that this would bring his dominance to an end. A terrifying aura of destruction surged through his back like a swarm of bees. Even with the golden dragon body's protection and resistance, he could only neutralize a very small portion of destructive power. Tang Wulin had already devoted every effort he could in order to deal with attacks from the rest of the 4 monsters. He had continuously unleashed a few formidable soul skills earlier, including the King's Path, the Final Stake, the Blood-Soul Fusion skill version of the 1,000 accusing fingers, and the domineering golden dragon body, which had just ended. Every single one of these soul skills consumed immense amounts of his energy. It was only due to his body's endurance that he could withstand it all, as a normal person would not have been able to. The palm behind his back did not just appear suddenly but also at the most suitable timing. It was the moment when Tang Wulin's body was slack and also the most critical moment. Roar! The dragon's roar coming from Tang Wulin's mouth suddenly turned bitter and forlorn. His dragon core, heart and soul core were all beating violently at the same time. He triggered the Golden Dragon King's 5th soul skill forcefully. As his body shook violently, the Golden Dragon tremor burst erupted. Yet, the destructive force behind his back had become even more powerful. There was a loud explosion, and he was blasted forward, colliding into Yuan and Yehue in front of him. Aruhang and Sima Jinchi's faces were filled with fear. They could only see as Tang Wulin's entire body was enshrouded by purple light until even his Golden Dragon King's scales had turned dull before their fixated eyes. On the other hand, a chubby man with a look of complete innocence was standing on the spot where Tang Wulin had just been. The chubby man's battle armor was shimmering with gentle white radiance while a dark purple orb of light was shimmering right in the center of his thick and wide palm. There was no doubt that it was the glowing purple orb that had severely injured Tang Wulin. Tang Wulin felt his entire body go numb and he thought he could not hold on any longer. His felt like his golden dragon body was about to disintegrate at any time. The soul power and bloodline power in his body were churned into broken fragments due to the destruction energy, making it impossible for them to condense. However, the destruction energy had only managed to condense on Tang Wulin's back. Even though it had affected him tremendously, it had not triggered any kind of explosive power. There was no doubt that the opponent was showing mercy to Tang Wuling. Yu Jingyu, Xie Xie, Yuan and Yehui, Yi Xinglan, and even Xu Xiaoyan, who was sitting on the ground, were smiling knowingly. They knew Tang Wuling too well. He was not only a powerful combatant, but his will to fight was superhuman. It would have been possible for the six monsters to defeat his unyielding will given their current abilities, but it would not have been possible to do so in a short period of time. Right from the beginning, they had strategized specifically for Tang Wuling. They were determined to defeat him utterly before anything else, but they were uncertain about the extent of Tang Wuling's current growth after being away from each other for so long. Earlier, Yu Jingyu had shared the details of the collision between Tang Wuling and Elder Long from the other day with everyone. From that point onward, they had drafted an extremely complicated set of battle tactics. It was not only Tang Wuling who had learned from experience on the Demon Island, as all of them had been tormented there. Under such circumstances, they were all aware that in order to defeat Tang Wuling they would first need to design a trap for him which he would never see coming. As a result, the trap was already being put in place ever since the first collision when the six monsters lost. Besides targeting him with their attacks, everything that they did was meant to confuse Tang Wuling. The most important part of this trap was that every action that they had taken earlier was genuine. If they were capable of defeating Tang Wuling during the initial confrontation, obviously it would have been the best result, saving them the trouble later on. In reality, their tactics were also meant to minimize one of them, the least noticeable person among the Shrek 7 monsters. Other than his provision of bloodthirst bin buns for everybody in the beginning, he had kept his presence inconspicuous. He had been quietly waiting for the opportunity all along. Thus, the six monsters' trump card in besieging Tang Wuling was not Xie Xie, who could conceal himself in the void, but Xu Lixi, who had concealed himself by their side with an innocent expression on his face. It was Guardian Star Xu Lixi. Just as Tang Wuling thought he was already done blocking everyone's attacks, Xu Lixi finally made an opening move. It was the most opportune moment for him to hit the target with one slap. Moreover, the explosive power of his attacking ability was beyond Tang Wuling's imagination. The trap was not only ingeniously arranged but every part was also linked with one another. Yi Xinglan radiated the most intense light to attract the attention of Tang Wuling's group of three. In addition to that, the rest of the team had been making every effort to engage in the battle. In the end, they used this trap to conceal Xu Lixi's final strike and succeeded with that final blow as expected. However, the battle had yet to end. They had not dealt with Strength God A Ruheng and Gale Saber Demon Sima Jinkai. Even so, they were already greatly relieved after finishing off Tang Wuling. A Ruheng and Sima Jinkai appeared as if they had lost their captain. All along, Elder Long had been watching the battle from the sidelines. Even Xu Xiaoyan's domain was incapable of blocking her line of sight. When she watched Xu Lixi finally make a move by blasting Tang Wuling and infusing his destruction power, her lips could not help cracking into a faint smile. These little children are truly impressive. Their abilities and their scheming. They truly deserve the reputation of the Shrek 7 monsters. Compared to the first round, she was much more satisfied with their performance in the second. On the other hand, Tang Wuling felt like his failure this time was not such a bad thing for him, as he had grown too fast. Moreover, it was fine that he lost at the hands of his companions. Though describing the events that occurred takes time, it all happened in mere moments. The Shrek 6 monsters used their actions to prove how much they valued Tang Wuling's presence. Even though Tang Wuling was smashed away by Xu Lixi's destructive power, Xie Xie, Yu Jingyu, Yuan and Yehui, and Yi Xinglan leaped into the air simultaneously to chase after him. They intended to truly and completely finish off Tang Wuling before they were done. Yet in this situation, the only remaining people to handle Sima Jinkai and Aruheng now were Xu Lixi and Xu Xiaoyan, who was slumped against the ground and had already lost her fighting capacity. Are they planning to sacrifice two in exchange for one? Are they certain that they can achieve victory by sending the remaining four to fight against two great title Duluos? Long Yeyue had an idea which allowed her to figure out that it would not be as simple, but she was eager to find out what these young people were actually planning to do. Then, her question was answered by Xu Lixi. The chubby flesh on his entire body trembled as his pitch-black seventh soul ring enlarged abruptly. At the same time the circular soul ring was spreading out, his incomparably plump body sank down like it was caving in. He transformed into an enormous bamboo steamer. Yes, it was a bamboo steamer. It was extremely large and even appeared to be fair and chubby to one's eyes. The cover on the bamboo steamer was bubbling over as if vapor was boiling inside it. The cover shook until a large rotund bun flew out from the steamer and landed right in Xu Xiaoyon's hand. Xu Xiaoyon took a bite without the slightest hesitation. The oil streamed down her lips as warmth rapidly seeped through her entire body. Her exhaustion from earlier was immediately reduced slightly. Aruhang and Sima Jinkai were still coming in a threatening manner, but they were momentarily stunned upon seeing Xu Lishi's martial soul avatar. What on earth was that? A bamboo steamer? A bamboo steamer avatar? Aruhang's first impression was one of hunger. Sima Jinch's lips on the other hand. Who would have thought that a soul master's martial soul avatar was a steamer basket? Yet, upon consideration, Xu Lishi's martial soul was, indeed, a bun, so did it not make sense that his martial soul avatar was the bamboo steamer that produced buns? Could it be that the fat boy still wanted to strengthen his companions? Aruhang took the lead as he gave a tight slap to the bamboo steamer Xu Lishi had transformed into. Ahowever, the sixth soul ring that surrounded the bamboo steamer was glowing and another bun came shooting out from it. This time, it was aiming right for Aruhang. Aruhang chuckled at once. The boy must have known that I'm hungry, right? Is he giving me a bun to buy time? You must be overthinking. Do you think that I'm such a glutton? I am indeed. Eating a bun will not affect the battle either. Anyhow, Tang Wulin's side seems to be putting a hopeless amount of effort. He slapped the bamboo steamer while his other hand grabbed the bun. Then, Aruhang took a close look at the bun and was taken aback. The bun had a rather strange appearance. Even though it looked like a regular bun, it was purple-black in color. What sort of bun was that? Could it be that it was made with some fruit juice? Aruhang was still puzzled when a violent energy fluctuation suddenly radiated from the bun. Oh no! As he stood there astonished, the purple-black bun exploded. Boom! An earth-shattering blast echoed and shocked the entire scene. The exploding bun had instantly transformed into a purple-black orb of light before Aruhang's face. It not only exploded in the sky, but it also remained there for some time. The terrifying destructive aura came so suddenly, it blasted Aruhang away at once. Even though he would not be severely injured due to durability provided by his body sect's innate secret technique, the explosive force did manage to shock him. The destructive power contained in the explosion seeped into his body and corroded his insides wildly like maggots gnawing into his bones, wounding him and damaging his soul power. What the heck is this? Is there such a bun? Guardian Star Xu Lishi's seventh soul skill and his martial soul avatar was the bamboo steamer. He launched his sixth soul skill, the destruction explosive bun. It was the first time Xu Lishi's two great soul skills ever made a debut and it left them all in awe. There was an old saying among soul masters that the most terrifying soul master is one with unknown soul skills. Xu Lishi had demonstrated this perfectly in today's battle. His performance had yet to end. Immediately after shooting the first destruction explosive bun, one after another, purple-black buns flew out from under the bamboo steamer continuously and going straight for Aruhang and Sima Jinkai. The explosive buns filled with destructive power were truly terrifying due to the amplification of his martial soul avatar. The rest of the four monsters did not give up on him as they were confident that he could temporarily hold Aruhang and Sima Jinkai single-handedly. Their impressive planning and complementation. Despite Aruhang and Sima Jinch's arrogance, they could not help respecting the Shrek 6 monsters anymore. Meanwhile, the other four monsters had already arrived by Tang Wulin's side while they were being held back. Ha ha, big brother, this could happen to you too. Xie laughed aloud and stretched out his hand to grab Tang Wulin. As long as he could exercise control over him, then it was the same as eliminating Tang Wulin from the competition. There was still some destructive power that Xu Lishi had blasted into Tang Wulin. Even though Dragon Air and the Golden Dragon body neutralized part of it, the remaining portion was still rooted inside his body. Shu Lixi could mentally trigger it to explode at any moment. It seemed like the competition had already ended regardless. After eliminating Tang Wulin, he then joined the rest of his team to finish off a Ruhan and Sima Jinkai. The buns made from the bamboo steamer, Shu Lixi's martial soul avatar, amplified everyone's skills. Once Xu Xiaoyan regained her fighting capacity, it would not be much trouble to take down a Ruhan and Sima Jinkai. Everything was going according to the Six Monsters plot. Bang! However, something they did not expect occurred. Just as Xie Xie's right hand came into contact with Tang Wulin, a golden radiance flashed once and a thick, sturdy vine suddenly slapped Xie Xie's palm away. The golden vine immediately wrapped itself around Tang Wulin's waist and abruptly tossed him away. Is that the gold song? Big brother, there's not much point in delaying your defeat. Xie Xie looked at Tang Wulin, who was tossed away in astonishment. He had not expected Tang Wulin refusing to give up, as Tang Wulin used his spirit soul to get a temporary reprieve. The others were not waiting for Tang Wulin to create miracles, as he was capable of capitalizing on even the slightest opportunity. So, 3 of the monsters flapped the wings on their backs to chase after Tang Wulin without any hesitation. Yu Jingyu was the fastest in flying since he was bestowed with the ability to fly. While flying, he blasted the light of judgment at Tang Wulin. A massive silhouette suddenly appeared before Tang Wulin to block the light of judgment. It was the gigantic overlord dragon which fully concealed Tang Wulin's body. A speckle of green radiance flickered silently on Tang Wulin's forehead. In the next moment, a dense life source burst forth from the area between his brows, which then radiated through his entire body. The destructive power infused into his body by Shu Lixi was being consumed rapidly. Sensing his destructive power being devoured, Shu Lixi triggered an explosion without delay. He realized that he should not show any mercy toward Big Brother. Bang! A muffled explosion was heard inside Tang Wulin's body as green and purple airflows burst out from his body simultaneously. His face turned a ghastly pale. It was apparent that he had suffered serious injuries while neutralizing the destructive power. However, a faint smile emerged on his face at this moment. His voice was heard by everyone soon after. Since everyone has shown their trump cards, I suppose it's my turn now. What? The Shrek 6 monsters were all stunned. Tang Wulin's voice sounded calm despite being severely injured. He had a trump card still? Could it be that he saw through the plot? Elder Long was similarly astonished. Long Yeyue could not figure out the trick Tang Wulin had up his sleeves at the moment. Simultaneously, the 9th soul ring on the Gale Saber demon Sima Jinkai glowed brightly. His entire body transformed into a stream of golden light which surged skyward. Roar, roar, roar! The roars of a valiant dragon were heard from all corners of the gymnasium. At that moment, it felt like they had entered a dragon's lair, and giant dragons were lurking in the surroundings. The dragon's loud roars were submissive but filled with respect. Xie Xie's body, which was suspended in the air, dropped from the sky instantly. Even the light dark Dolor Long Yue, the almighty in today's world, had a change in expression when she heard the dragon's roars. She fell back a few steps. She finally stabilized herself by quickly adjusting the soul power in her body. What was that? Elder Long and Xie Xie reacted strongly to the situation, while the rest were affected considerably too. In any case, everyone felt their bloodlines boiling upon the valiant dragon's roar and was completely suppressed. A misty golden radiance spread outward from Tang Wulin's body. It was not the dragon air, but still it had an intense overbearing aura. A stream of 7-colored light shadow appeared behind Tang Wulin's back soon after. It seemed to be only 10 meters in height, yet it had a daunting presence. Seemingly, everything in the world was within its control. Tang Wulin vanished in the embrace of the golden radiance as he immersed into the 7-colored silhouette. The silhouette turned crystal clear after his fusion. Was that not Tang Wulin himself? He was dressed in a 7-colored magnificent robe with a dragon crown on his head. His entire body was emitting energy that was exceedingly overbearing. The 7-colored robe was embroidered with 7-colored giant dragons upon closer inspection. Henceforth, the emission of the 7-colored radiance. A seven-colored crystal on Tang Wulin's bracelet was emitting a faint radiance that complemented the magnificence of his seven-colored robe. Shortly, a deep and distant voice was heard. Saber. The dragon-slaying saber was undergoing a transformation at present. The giant saber transformed in the air. From its initial plain look, it turned into an elegant weapon and was emitting a seven-colored radiance all over. Countless giant dragons surrounding the saber were heard mournfully. Thousands of dragons fled in all directions at the strike of the saber. It was none other than the Dragon Clan's power saber. Regardless of who was dashing toward Tang Wulin, be it Xu Xiaoyan or Xu Lixi in the form of a bamboo steamer, they were all stunned upon witnessing the scene. Precisely then, the aura from Tang Wulin's body was in a completely different range than before. Oh my God! What was that? Was that not the martial soul fusion skill? A martial soul fusion skill between Tang Wulin and Sima Jinkai? However, it barely had any semblance to a martial soul fusion skill. The seven-colored saber in his hand was gently waved as the saber tip lashed out akin to a whip. Yes, it was a lashing. Bang bang bang. 3 muffled bangs were heard simultaneously. Yu Jingyu, Yi Xinglan, and Yuan and Yehui were whipped away by the cannon-like saber's radiance. They smashed right onto the protective shield in the distance. The seven-colored silhouette descended from the sky. Holding the Dragon Clan's power saber, he appeared to be in a solid form yet was constantly warping as if he was attempting to struggle free from the surrounding space. Long Yue's vision turned crystal clear at present. She looked at Tang Wulin without blinking her eyes at all. It was obviously a god's aura. Having reached the demigod realm, she naturally sensed Tang Wulin's aura, which could only be possessed by godhood. It was weak since it was not derived from true godhood. Nevertheless, a wisp of the aura was enough to judge its godhood-like nature. The light shadow shimmered as the seven-colored silhouette split. Tang Wulin and Sima Jinkai revealed their original figures once again. Sima Jinkai was in a better condition as he did not seem to be injured much. On the other hand, Tang Wulin was ghastly pale and his body swayed as if he was going to fall. In addition to completing the martial soul fusion skill with Sima Jinkai, he had been struck by Xu Lixi's palm. He was just a soul sage after all. He had relied on the dragon-slaying saber of title Dolor rank to perform the fusion. The process had drained his remaining soul power instantly. He did not slump onto the ground since Sima Jinkai was propping him up. Victory to Tang Wulin's side. Without the suppression from the Dragon Clan's power saber, the light dark Dolor Long Yue felt relieved. Following that, a gaze changed as she looked at Tang Wulin. He had truly proven himself to be the plane's chosen one. Could it be that his aura earlier was related to the dragon god? The group of people lying on the ground stood up in succession. Xie Xie, Yu Jingyu, Yuan and Yehui, and Yi Xinglan did not fare much better than Tang Wulin. Their soul power had almost disintegrated from the suppression effect of the Dragon Clan's power saber. If the saber tip had cut in their direction, they would have been split into 2. They did not manage to defeat Tang Wulin in the end despite their trump card. On the other hand, Tang Wulin's trump card managed to finish them off brilliantly. How could these people not feel gloomy after such an episode? Yet, there was nothing he could do. Big brother, did you discover our plan since earlier? Xie Xie could not refrain himself from asking. Tang Wulin darted him a look. A little, I guess. All of you were impressive in concealing Xu Lixi. Naturally, I sensed something different about him at the beginning. However, Xiaoyan's domain was extremely powerful that I underestimated its power. I thought Lixi was assisting Xiaoyan all along. Thus, I was hit by his strike. I suppose you could say that your strategy succeeded. This video will end here. Like video and subscribe to my channel.